Hi class, I will be going over chapter 2 with you when we have class on November the 3rd. So I just thought I would, line the chapter up for you here on Blackboard, and then we can kind of briefly review it when we have our next class together. And we should be able to go into some of the highlights of 2, and then we, based on the syllabus, we can next go into chapter 3. But anyway, let me kind of go over some of the highlights of chapter 2 with you. Chapter 2 is about trade-offs, comparative advantage, and the market system. What this book is going to cover is briefly on the learning objectives is we're going to talk about the production possibilities frontier and opportunity costs, and that is on page 42 to 47 of your book. So, in chapter 1 we talked about opportunity costs and trade-offs. We kind of touched on that a little bit. The model of the production possibilities frontier is essentially used to analyze opportunity costs and trade-offs that individuals, firms, or countries face. So the next thing we're going to talk about is comparative advantage in trade, and that is on page 48 to 54 of your book. And we describe comparative advantage and explain how it serves as the basis for trade. Comparative advantage is the ability of an individual, firm, or country to produce a good or service at a lower opportunity cost than other producers. So obviously, for the larger companies that in many cases are considered monopolies and oligopolies, which we'll talk about later on, they can produce things a lot cheaper because they produce in volume. And they also have more advantage to getting resources to make product. Then finally, we're going to talk about the market system itself. And that's on page 54 to 62 of your book. And we're going to kind of go into how a market system works and how markets enable buyers and sellers of goods and services to come together to trade. And that is when equilibrium is really going to come into light for you. So in this chapter, we certainly want to know what absolute and comparative advantage is. We want to understand the role of a market in an economy. What's a free market? What's a factor market? And what are factors of production? Opportunity cost is going to be the highest value alternative. You're going to hear this over and over and over again throughout the course, that must be given up to engage in any one activity. And again, scarcity, a situation in which unlimited wants exceed the limited resources available to fulfill those wants. So we're really going to go into the PPF, which is on page 42 of your book, the Production Possibilities Frontier. And essentially, it's a curve that's showing the maximum attainable combination of two products that can be produced with available resources and current technology. Again, assuming that everything is scarce, what this is going to talk about, the PPF, it's going to usually show two products. If you produce more of one, you can only produce so much of another, and vice versa. Now, here again, there's no cost. It has nothing to do with cost. It only has to do with being able to make things with a certain amount of limited resources. And that's kind of the overview of the chapter. And what I'm going to do is I am going to put up in your reading, listening, and viewing section, all of the important things in Chapter 2 with some supportive videos, and we will be covering that in the first part of our class on Chapter 2, okay, before we start Chapter 3. I know we said that we would do Chapter 3 in week 2, but I certainly want to go over what you are doing online, and we get a better understanding of that. Again, the point of this whole course to me is getting what you learn quality. I'm not too concerned with, just getting through all the chapters and so forth. The important thing is for you to learn, especially the important concepts about PPF and thinking at the margin and increasing marginal opportunity costs, all of that. These are things we'll go a little bit slower with until we all understand it. So no problems, okay? So that's kind of the overview of 2. And again, looking forward to seeing you on November 3rd.